They blow the whistle as he's shooting it to stop the play.
So the ref was Cheeks. Welcome back, everybody. NFL Week 3 as we trudge along this season. Gentlemen, how do we feel? I'm joined by my lovely co-host Charlie Nidell, Serge Kadali. Gentlemen, Week 3. Charlie sits in last in the predictions, but only 2 back, so we're very, very close.
I mean, it was a bounce back week for me last week. I mean, 6 and 10, doubled my wins this week.
Get a
Well,
grip,
okay.
bro.
Well, okay. See, I did get a grip.
Divisional matchup, Bills, Dolphins, tomorrow night when you guys will see this 8:15 p.m. and for the majority in Central Time, 7:15 p.m. For my Central Time people out there. But yeah, obviously, look, give us this game 2 years ago. Fantastic matchup. Hard to predict. This year, the Bills wiped the floor with them. I have continued this agenda and I will continue to push this. And for those who have been watching and know one of our co-hosts, Dylan Shalom, you know, he's a massive Dolphins fan. And I genuinely think one of the biggest continuing stories of our channel, the 5 years we've been doing it, is me and him's debate over the uh job, like the ability for Tua to like play football. Like I'm not even just gonna say Tua being good because I've never thought he's good, but just the ability for him to play football and like the employment status of Tua Tagovailoa, because I don't think he should be employed in this league, and he has been absolutely god awful. And I think the Bills will exploit that and wipe the floor with Miami tomorrow night.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely agree with you. The Bills are going to win this game comfortably. I'm not sure that I think that Tua should be unemployed.
Yeah, that's not. Yeah, that
I'm
was.
not
I'm
sure that he
sorry for.
shouldn't be an NFL quarterback. He's definitely fallen a lot in rankings over the last couple of years, and especially in the last couple of weeks. A very shaky first 5 quarters to the season for Tua. He turned it around a little bit in the second half last week, ended up with a couple passing touchdowns, but he's falling in rankings for sure. And Allen and the Bills are only climbing in rankings right now. They've scored close to 90 points, maybe 90 points over their first 2 games this season.
I mean, yeah,
And
I'd say
this
Bills
Miami
are.
defense won't stop them from scoring 35
Yeah,
plus again.
I'd say Bills right now are the best team in the league. I guess the Eagles are
Yeah.
there, but I would the Eagles weren't super convincing against Kansas City. Obviously, it's Kansas City away, but
I mean, and the Eagles weren't, I would say they weren't super convincing
super
this most
convincing.
recent week either. So
Yeah,
there's room to grow.
yeah,
Yeah.
Or sorry,
I'm,
either week.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, Bills for me, Surge.
yeah, easy. Bills, not really much else to say. I don't think there's a single category where they don't wipe the floor with Miami. I think best offense in the league against the worst defense in the league. And that offense, they have talent, but Tua, I feel like, is taking a big step back from what we saw 2 years ago. And I think that offense, as well as in general, just doesn't have that same cohesiveness that we saw at the start of the Mike McDaniel era. So, yeah, Bills comfortably.
We are in agreement. Let's move on to the Sunday window, 1 o'clock. Bengals, Vikings. Obviously, the Bengals scrape out a win. There will be Joe Burrow list for 3 months, it looks like. So essentially, you'd assume the season for the Bengals, because you'd assume without Joe Burrow, their chances of making the playoffs is, you know, much lower. Obviously, Browning goes and wins them that game, surprisingly. But then they face up against the JJ McCarthy-less Vikings as well. So I see, yeah, you see all those Twitter posts. It's like Jake Browning against Carson Wentz in what is it, the 2025, where we're pretty, it's we always get these matchups where it's just two quarterbacks that you thought were kind of out. Jake Browning never really was a stalwart in this league, but obviously Carson Wentz was. Again, not a to me not a super interesting game without these guys, but obviously you look at their weapons, the Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson, uh, competition there, the LSU receivers, and it's tough for me, but I genuinely think, and this might be a casual take, I think what will win the Vikings this game is having Carson Wentz on that team. I still think he is somewhat of a serviceable quarterback. I definitely like him more than I like Jake Browning on the other side of the ball. I'm a big fan of the Vikings defense as well. I think it's kept them in a lot of. I like that front four especially. And obviously you still have Justin Jefferson. You still have somewhat of a backfield. Um, but I think you lose a running ability in JJ McCarthy, and obviously we saw what he did against Chicago in Week 1. So you're definitely losing a lot without him. But I like Carson Wentz more, which to me, as casual as it take that may be, I think is what wins Minnesota this game.
Yeah, I mean, this is a tough one for me because I think that Minnesota has the better defense. And when both teams are missing quarterbacks and neither one of them is starting particularly noteworthy backups, I think that the defense will play a huge role. That being said, I think Cincinnati has a much more versatile offense and a much more complete offense, with Chase and Brown and T. Higgins. And, even though Jordan Addison, I believe, is coming back this week,
I
or is
think
he coming
next
back
week.
next week?
Next week, yeah.
Jordan Addison's back next week, and the Vikings offense, even with JJ McCarthy, didn't look great, but they were still keeping themselves in games and winning, one out of two. I'm really torn about where to go on this one, but I think Minnesota's defense could win it for them. We've seen how bad the Bengals' offensive line is, and the Minnesota defense has been pretty strong to start the season. So I'm going to take the Vikings in a what should be probably a pretty boring matchup.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Minnesota as well. I think at the end of the day, despite everything that suggests that this might be a terrible offensive matchup, I actually do think that Minnesota may benefit from having Carson Wentz for a few weeks because JJ McCarthy I think really struggled behind an offensive line that was really banged up. And I think Wentz, he isn't, I wouldn't say the better quarterback, but he might be better at managing pressure that he'll face. And also going against the Bengals defense, I think it'll be a lot more easy sledding for Minnesota. And Jake Browning, I agree with you, Kian, about specifically that defensive line. They will put more pressure on them than Jacksonville did. So for that reason, give me the Vikings.
Yeah. Move on. Speaking of Jacksonville, we have them in a divisional matchup against Houston in week, or I don't know. You know when you just talk and you're not actually thinking of what you're saying? I do that literally constantly. Texans Jaguars. Obviously, Jacksonville. The jury is still out on Trevor Lawrence as long as he has been in the league. And obviously you lose against Cincinnati last week, obviously with Joe Burrow going out, which, for a Jaguars fan, you're hoping that you can come and scrape back that game. I think the Texans got unlucky last week. I think they played a very, very good ball game. I just think Baker Mayfield needs to get more credit as a quarterback. That was a fantastic last drive. That was as perfect as a kind of 2-minute drill drive you can give to a quarterback. He was fantastic. But I've always been a fan of the Texans. Obviously, we kind of saw that sophomore slump from CJ Stroud last year. Unlucky, I think, for them to be starting 0-2, but I can comfortably say they got their first win of the year here against Jacksonville, a team that I'm just not convinced on. I think they have pieces. Obviously, you have Travis Hunter. You have Brian Thomas Jr., who I would say out of the elite receivers, one of the worst games I've seen out of an elite receiver against Cincinnati, was constantly dropping passes, very unlike him. But I think Jacksonville's unluckiness continues here, and I think the Texans get a comfortable win.
Yeah, I think that, look, I don't think this is comfortable to me because I'm a really big Texans guy. I had the Texans getting a very high seed in the AFC before the season started. I had D'Amico Ryan's coach of the year with CJ Stroud up there in the MVP race and Nico Collins back to Nico Collins' offensive player of the year race self. Um, but they're really missing something on the offensive side of the ball.
An
It's a
offensive
An
really
line.
offensive line, yeah.
they're missing, I
They're
mean,
missing a
multiple
lot.
things.
Yeah.
If we take out even the offensive line, they're missing something explosive and dynamic. And I don't know exactly where that comes in because Nico Collins is a very explosive and dynamic player, but their running back is Nick Chubb, who, credit to him, has been okay to start the season, but not explosive like Nick Chubb was. And he only has 100-yard games. And when you look past Nico Collins, their receiver room is not impressive with Jaden Higgins and Xavier Hutchinson and Justin Watson, and I don't even know who else they have.
Tank Dell.
Um, very, very injured Tank Dell.
Yeah.
Um,
I think I've been saying this about Tank Dell. I think he is such an underrated wide receiver. I think he adds so much to that Texans offense. And I think they're, as you said, Charlie, are feeling that absence from Tank Dell.
they're feeling some loss on that offensive side of the ball. The defense has looked fine to me. It's a really good defense, I think, and they've done a really good job so far. That being said, they have to score more points. Chuck up last week to a Baker Mayfield masterclass because Baker was impressive. He really was. But I think that this Houston offense is still capable of beating that. on their day, and they haven't had their day yet. Maybe, look, they've got Jacksonville and Tennessee as their next two matchups. Maybe that's two chances to turn it around and score 60 points across two games. But they really need to turn it around. I'm gonna pick them this week because I have a hard time picking the Jaguars right now over them. But it's a very shaky and scary start for the Texans.
Yeah, I think you really just said it all. That I just feel like this Texans offense right now is CJ Stroud, Nico Collins, and a prayer because that offensive line, I was expecting it to be somewhat improved, but it just looks like the exact same unit we saw last year. Defensively, obviously, Neil Hunter, Will Anderson, still the best pass rush duo in the NFL. But even there, I feel like there are some concerns about specifically, I would say that linebacking room. I mean, they have,
And
yeah,
that's better than Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence right now.
it is, it is, it is. It is. Come on.
It's
Come on.
not.
Dexter Lawrence is a better player, but as a pass rusher purely, I
He's
would
probably the best pass rushing interior defensive lineman except for Chris Jones.
yeah, and I would say both Will Anderson and Danielle Hunter are top five in the league as pass rushers.
What?
No.
Yeah. Who name
Daniil
five better?
Hunter?
Yes,
No,
absolutely.
Brian
no.
Burns is better than one of them. I think Will Anderson is probably
No,
top
no,
five.
come
Will
on. You
Anderson is
can't
top five.
no.
Aiden
Mm,
Danielle
Hutchinson, Trey
Hunter's
Hendrickson,
okay, yes.
TJ
uh,
Watt.
I wouldn't
TJ
take TJ
Watt,
Watt. I
Miles
Myles
would
Garrett.
Garrett, Micah
uh,
Micah Parsons,
You
if you
say you
count him as
wouldn't
an
say
edge rusher.
TJ Watt is a better pass rusher than Daniil Hunter? That's
TJ
racist.
Watt is a great no. TJ Watt is great at forcing turnovers and he's great at making the flashy plays, but he isn't someone that gets pressure on a consistent basis as guys like
What
Miles
are you
Garrett or Micah
talking about?
Parsons. Uh, TJ Watt this
Sir,
year and
that's
last.
that's
No, I'm
Charlie,
sorry.
this is what I mean when this guy's on like Twitter too much.
Max
You go down these like
Crosby.
loopholes.
Exactly. But
Okay,
exactly.
Max Crosby, sure. I Charlie would probably agree with that also, but saying that Daniil Hunter is a better pass rusher than TJ
Yeah.
Watt is just you're asking for that's just not true
Look,
and it's racist.
I think Daniil Hunter is great, but I would rather have Brian Burns than Daniil Hunter, and that's maybe just me as a Giants fan, but Brian Burns has been incredible in this first two games of the season. He's been great in the last 5 years or so. He's one of only like four players in the NFL with 8+ sacks in each of the last 5 seasons or something.
Sir,
Consistency
I very
is
much
just
yeah.
dangerous.
I very much think Daniil Hunter is on the back end of his like just about to like on the when you have a graph and it's like it peaks at the climax, he's one below that.
Well, he hasn't reached it yet, though. Is my point, and he still looks as good as ever as this year. And going back to the Texans game, I just feel like at the end of the day, that pass rush duo is going to be too much for a Jacksonville offensive line where, I mean, their tackles are just, I mean, they're not bad. Anton Harrison is a fine pass protector, but him and Walker Little are not going to be able to stop that. And I think that's going to be the difference, even though I'm just not at all in Houston here.
Okay, we stay congruent again. Maybe we see a little bit, I doubt it, but maybe we see a little bit different of picks here. Colts, Titans. Obviously the Colts and uh again another page in the Giants agony book. Somehow Daniel Jones is winning football games now and is like Sam Darnold was when he started last year. Maybe a little worse, but the Colts obviously get probably one of the most rage-inducing wins if you are not a fan of the Colts last week. Obviously, that was, I mean, for sports bettors out there, I was sitting next to someone who had put money against the Colts, and that was quite the spectacle to see them call that back and then him absolutely drill the field goal to end the game. But I will stay strong here, and I think the Colts win again. I like the Titans. I think Cam Ward has been good. He's shown kind of that flair, that flash, like the Mahomes style throws where he's falling and flips it out. And I do think he has potential to be a good quarterback. I just don't think he has the pieces around him. I think the receiving core is extremely poor. I'm not a fan of their defense. I think they're middle to middle of the pack. I just think the Titans are not yet at that spot where they're going to compete for much. And I think the Colts may be that Vikings like team this year where you see them win more games than they're supposed to. So yeah, I think the Indianapolis Colts start the season 3-0, as crazy as it is.
Yeah, I think I agree with you. The Colts just haven't had very much success, or the Titans just haven't had very much success passing the ball yet. Um, Ward has thrown the ball a lot. He's not completing very many of his passes, and he's not completing them for very many yards. So it's been a slow start to the season. You can expect that. You've got a rookie quarterback at the helm. It's not a worry if you're a Titans fan. I just don't think that they, currently, like you said, Keaton, have enough around Ward to really be competing yet. I like the pieces. I like Tony Pollard. I like Calvin Ridley. I like Alec Ayomanor, but it's not enough to compete as a rookie quarterback. As a rookie quarterback, it's maybe something that they can be looking towards, winning a lot of games towards the end of the season and early in next season. But this season, you were expecting the first 8 games to be rough, and that's okay. The Colts, on the other hand, I think you were expecting the first 8 games to be rough too. Daniel Jones has not exactly had the most successful 4 years, 5 years with the New York Giants, and all of a sudden he's, Indiana Jones, right?
Mhm.
He's throwing the ball like I've never seen him throw the ball before. And, he is helped by the fact that Jonathan Taylor is still one of the best running backs in the game and draws a lot of attention. And Tyler Warren's great. But yeah, the Colts out of nowhere. So yeah, I'm going to take the Colts.
Yeah, I'm not truly bought in on this Daniel Jones resurgence as a lot of people are, but I what I am bought in on is the Colts offensive line, and it just shows how outside of quarterback, the most important skill group in the NFL is having a good offensive line because we've seen them dominate two teams in the trenches, a bad Miami defense, but a very good Denver defense, and that's how they've been able to win. You talked about it, Charlie. That skill position group, I feel like, is vastly improved. We've seen Jonathan Taylor get back to his best. We've seen Tyler Warren already emerge as one of the best tight ends in the NFL, and it's a solid enough receiving room where Daniel Jones will have guys open from time to time. I'm gonna go with Indianapolis as well, honestly. I think it's just they're gonna push around a much weaker Titans front. And again, I do like what I've seen from Cam Ward, but you guys said it. There's just Calvin Ridley and Elika Iomanor is not enough to compete at the NFL level, at least right now. So yeah, give me Indianapolis.
All right, we stay consistent. We will move on now to another interesting game. And is Jaden Daniels, the Commanders Raiders? I didn't look. Is Jaden Daniels going to be playing in this game? I know he was,
Questionable still. So
so he was upgraded from doubtful.
was he doubtful before?
I'm
I
pretty
didn't see that.
sure
I think
when
he
he
was
started.
always. Let me check that actually. But I was under the
Whatever
impression.
the analogy is, I know he's not expected to practice until Friday. Uh,
Hmm.
if that tells you anything, I don't know. Um,
I still, in this one, I still will go Commanders because again, like Raiders are similar to Titans with me. It's just a team that I don't see any threat in. I see them as maybe winning 6 or 7 games. Oh, that actually wasn't
Come
even
on,
that
man.
was not
dude,
intentional.
I
I think
say it
we've done that.
so
I
much.
think
I
we've
say
done
it
it
so
every. I
much.
think we've done it every video to
That
this
wasn't even
point.
intentional, which is actually like sad because people are gonna like. I'll put on the record. Nah, it's hilarious. Never mind. But uh, I will go Commanders. I'm just gonna end it there because that was just a buzzkill.
Yeah, I'm gonna take the Commanders too, because of the doubt around Jaden Daniels. If Daniels is playing, then I'm for sure taking Commanders here. So I'm gonna bank on him playing because for the sake of my prediction, I still think that even with a backup quarterback, this is probably the Commanders' game to lose. So this is the safe way to go. It might be a different conversation if we knew he wasn't playing. Um, the Raiders. The Raiders don't look great, so I I have trouble picking them right now. So that's why I have no problem taking Commanders even with Daniels' doubt.
Yeah, last year, even when Daniels did miss a few games, we saw Marcus Mariota take over and win a couple games for them anyways. So I'm not too worried about that. I'm gonna go Commanders as well because with the Raiders, kind of a little bit similar to the Giants in week one, where not really trust that don't really trust that offensive line much. Um, defensively, I mean, defensively actually are not really that similar to the Giants. I was more just talking about that offensive line where I think the Commanders' defensive line will find it a lot easier than they did in that Packers game. And Packers game is also going to force Geno Smith into a ton of bad decisions, which we've seen against the Chargers as well. So yeah, give me the sorry. So this extension just keeps playing for me. It's very distracting, but yeah, give me the Commanders here.
All right. We'll move on. Rams, Eagles. I think the best game that we've talked about so far. Obviously, you see an Eagles team, the reigning Super Bowl champs, um, at home against as well the 2-0 Los Angeles Rams, who kind of continuously show why they are a good team in the league. Obviously, beating the Titans last week comfortably. The Eagles going into Arrowhead and beating the Chiefs in a game that is obviously in no way easy. It wasn't a convincing win, but they got the win, which is what champions do. Um, I think the Eagles win this one. In my opinion, it's tough for me because it's like for the Rams, I definitely could see a case in where the Rams win this. Like that, this is like I think in my opinion the first game where I could see the Rams being like a very value pick. But I do think the Eagles will win. Again, I'm gonna find it very hard to pick against the Eagles this entire season. They have just a stacked roster all across, but I could see a Rams upset here.
Yeah, again, find it hard to pick against the Eagles. Their offense hasn't had the greatest start to the season, but at the end of the day, their defense is so good that it's hard to pick against them, especially a team like the Rams who don't have the most dynamic offense. They have a really solid offense led by Stafford and Kyron and Nakua, but it's not some like super tricky, super, using super fast players like the Lions offense maybe, or a prime Dolphins offense that can really expose the best of defenses. It's really they rely on their guys to be better than the guys on the other side of the ball. And in this matchup, they just aren't. So I think the Rams are going to really struggle to move the ball in this one. Um, and yeah, I'm going to take the Eagles.
Yeah, I'm gonna make the first disagreement of the video. I'm gonna go with the Rams. Kind of
I
my
like it.
upset pick, but I feel like what I've seen from the Eagles so far this year has been very similar to what we saw in 2023 with Brian Johnson as their offensive coordinator. I've not really been impressed with what I've seen out of Kevin Patullo so far. It's been a lot of they are completely avoiding the middle of the field, and even though they have AJ Brown, Devontae Smith, no one is getting open for them. And I think the main mismatch in this game is the Rams receivers against that Eagles secondary, which has looked very, very weak with Adoree Jackson or Achille Ringo or even Jacorian Bennett. I just don't think any one of them can cover Devontae Adams. And I think that mismatch Stafford is going to exploit because he looked great this season. And I think the Rams are just a much better coach team and one of the few teams that I feel like can match the Eagles in talent, as we saw in the divisional round last year. So I'm going to go LA here.
Serge, I'm liking what you're talking about.
Mm,
I'm gonna
thank you.
flip. Is that
Oh, okay.
allowed?
Okay. It is allowed. It is allowed.
Because you
I
know
think
what?
we've
I was
allowed
like,
that.
you had the balls to do it, and I agree. I've kind of forgotten about that Eagles. I just forget that Darius Slay isn't there anymore, and I forget kind of
Hmm.
that turnover that they've had and how big of a problem that's been. And I just think Stafford's the kind of quarterback that can beat these teams.
Hmm.
I'm gonna go Rams as well. Charlie, you might be jumping for joy after that game. And I know I literally just said I find it hard to pick against the Eagles, and this probably will be one of the only times I do it, but Rams. Move on. Falcons, Panthers. Two interesting teams. The Falcons, a team I'm finding a lot of joy watching. I like the Falcons. I think they have a new identity on defense. I think offensively, they've had their moments. Michael Penix obviously still kind of trying to find his way, but definitely being the underdog going against Minnesota and winning that game, holding them to 6 points, which is very impressive. Obviously, the McCarthy injury. And they only lose to the Buccaneers, who I think are a fantastic team by 3 in week one. Again, this is a game that I find pretty easy to pick. The Panthers, again, finding their feet, starting off 0-2. I'm a fan of Bryce Young. They played the Cardinals close. Obviously, they almost had that insane comeback. But that week one loss to Jacksonville definitely has set me a step back for them. So I find it easy to go Falcons. I don't know if it'll be a blowout or a comfortable win, but I think the Falcons will win this game.
Yeah, I'm also going to pick the Falcons here. I don't think this is a super easy one in Carolina, and I do like Bryce Young and what the Panthers are doing. They just haven't started off the season so well, and the Cardinals, kind of gave them a gift, and they politely declined this most recent week. Um, I am going to go with the Falcons. While I said I like what the Panthers are doing, I think I like what the Falcons are doing even more. And they look really, really strong to start the season. Penix looks pretty solid. Bijan looks like Bijan, huge in the receiving game. And I think, Kyle Pitts looks like a rookie Kyle Pitts that, could potentially be trusted. The one thing they've got to, get ticking is Drake London, who's had a pretty slow start to the season. But yeah, I'm going to take the Falcons in this one.
Yeah, Falcons as well. I think Kian, you really said it well about how this defense feels fun. And I think they just fly around, especially in that secondary with Jesse Bates, Xavier Watts, the rookie who I loved coming out of the
Xavier Watts
draft.
is, I love him.
He was so good. He's so good. And I think that kind of those safeties that fly around are really, I think, a weak point for Bryce Young, where we've seen early on he's been a victim of a few of those, even throughout his career in general, where he's been a victim of not really seeing where the safety is or throwing the ball a bit too late. And I think we've seen kind of that early season Bryce from last year show up again this year, especially without some of his weapons like Adam Thielen going to the Vikings, Jalen Coker being on IR. So I'm gonna go with Atlanta too. I like what Michael Penix has shown me so far. Obviously, love Bijan. I think he is right now. He's starting to get on track to becoming the best running back in the NFL. So I'm gonna go Atlanta here.
All right. We will move on to our next game. Steelers, Patriots. Again, another kind of uninteresting one. Two 1-1 teams. Obviously, the Steelers with Aaron Rodgers. Patriots looking for a turnaround season from Drake May. Not a super interesting one for me. I think Steelers win this by 7 or 10 points. But again, not a particularly exciting game. I think low scoring, two better defenses than offenses. So I'm gonna go Steelers in this one.
Yeah, I'm actually going to take the Patriots in this one. I really like the way the Patriots played. I know against a weak Dolphins team this most recent week, and they started off the season with a rough one against the Raiders. But I really am liking what I'm seeing from Drake May so far. He's been really strong, and Ramondre Stevenson's been pretty solid, and Kayshon Boutte has been really solid. So I'm actually really excited to keep watching how the Patriots progress this season. Meanwhile, I think that the Steelers, it's more of a case of how quickly they regress because we know that Aaron Rodgers isn't, definitely not capable of putting together 17 competent games. So I'm curious how fast they regress, how fast the Patriots improve. So I'm going to take the Patriots in this one at home, a good New England environment. Yeah, I'll go with the Patriots.
Yeah, two pretty uninspiring teams for me, but I agree with Charlie. I'm gonna go with the Patriots here. Just not
Yes.
I just don't trust Aaron Rodgers. Like you said, especially against the Patriots front that actually can create pressure with Christian Barmore and Milton Williams, who's looked excellent so far. Um, yeah, not really. The Steelers defense also, I feel like they have looked like they are regressing heavily this year. I'm just never really a fan of that UNC secondary with Darius Slay and Jalen Ramsey. So I think Drake May will actually have a pretty good game. So give me the Patriots in this one.
All right. I actually thought you guys were gonna go Steelers, but
Mm.
surprise, surprise. We'll move on as we shred through this Packers Browns. It's kind of a not great week for football, if you think about it. There's
But
not
those
too
are usually
many.
the best ones, the most
Maybe you're right. Maybe
uninspiring.
you're right.
So mm,
You're not an inspiring. You're not
I'm
like
very inspiring.
this
I'm
isn't gonna
very
be like an
inspiring.
edit where it's like
All right,
someone
all
says
right.
it and then it's
Mm.
like yeah.
All right, wait, just watch.
Um, Packers, Browns. I will say a big fan of the Packers. I think they have been very, very good. Obviously that Lions game last week was extremely convincing. Winning that by 14 points is hard to do against a very good Lions team, especially early on against your arguably biggest rival in your division. And then the Cleveland Browns 0-2. Again, this is not a super inspiring game for me. I think that the Packers win this one. Comfortably. I don't think they'll wipe the floor. They probably will. They probably will. Packers by a
Yeah.
million, sure.
Yeah, the Packers are the kind of team that I jumped on the second they got Micah Parsons. It was, you signed Parsons. In my brain, they were instant Super Bowl contenders out of the NFC. I, in fact, have them all the way to the NFC Championship. I think I don't have them winning the division, but I might have to correct that now. And if I had to guess now, they would win the division. Um,
Oh yeah.
the Browns are a thoroughly, to stick on the inspiring route, they are thoroughly uninspiring.
Oh.
Um, Dylan Sampson's looked solid, and now Quinshon Judkins is coming back, and he played a few snaps last week, but he is listed now as the RB1 on the Browns depth chart. Maybe, that duo plus Jerome Ford can, you know,
Judkins
cause
could be a revelation. I think he could be a very good running back if he
maybe,
stays
yeah, maybe
healthy.
they cause some distress in the Packers defense, but I don't think that much because at the end of the day, the Packers defense has looked so strong. Um, so yeah, I mean, this is a comfortable Packers win for me. And I think for the most part, picks are going to be Packers wins until they start losing games, which we don't know exactly when that'll be because they've got the Cowboys, Bengals, Cardinals, Steelers, and Panthers coming up next.
Mhm.
None of which, now that Joe Burrow's injured and you know these teams don't look great, and the Packers could be 8-0 before you've even blinked.
Yeah, Packers pretty easy for me. I think right now they are making a good case to be the best defense in the NFL. I think Jeff Hafley right now one of the best defensive minds in the NFL, and I think he probably will be a head coach next year. And we're already seeing obviously they were a good defense last year without a pass rush. So now you're already seeing what Micah Parsons is doing for them. So yeah, Packers comfortably here.
Ooh, we're ripping through it. Hopefully this week doesn't prove our intuition to be true about how these games will go. But moving on to another one. This will be a better game. Jets Buccaneers. Surge, I'm a gentleman, so I'll let you talk first as it is your favorite team. But
Mhm.
we all know what's gonna happen. And you do also. And we're gonna
Mm.
let you talk for 2 minutes and try and overanalyze this and
Thank you. Thank you.
but we
That's
know what's
why I
gonna
was
happen.
See, that's what you see. You notice how I was going quick today. That's the reason why.
Oh
But
yeah.
no, but in all seriousness, I mean, this was sadly the most predictable Jets game against Buffalo of all time, where they look promising one week. You think maybe can they stack this, and they end up. The problem with the Jets under Robert Saleh and so far under Aaron Glenn is they just can't stack good performances. And for that reason, I think they're actually going to play well now that they're coming off a bad week against the Buccaneers. But I still have to go Tampa. I just think that defense right now is it moves me. I've really liked what I've seen out of that secondary so far.
Uh,
I think losing Kalijah Canty is going to be difficult, but I think Elijah Roberts is a more than capable replacement. And like you said, Baker probably one of the best games of his career, even if it doesn't show stat wise, because what he did without both of his tackles and Tristan Wirfs and Luke Goedeke against one of the best edge rushing duos in the NFL. I think it was so impressive. So yeah, Bucks win this one.
Yeah, I'm also going to take the Bucks here. I Baker's always been a smart quarterback, a very composed quarterback. He has struggled. He used to struggle when he was with Cleveland, when he was in Carolina, when he was in LA. He just could, like, felt like he couldn't put all the pieces together. He's always been a talented guy, but now in Tampa, watching, I think it was his first touchdown throw this weekend. Uh, his ability to go through reads and process what's happening on a football field is really, really uncanny. He
Mhm.
does it better than most quarterbacks do, even quarterbacks who might be better than him in most other facets of the game. Baker is incredibly intelligent on a football field. And you wouldn't think so by the way he headbutts people without a helmet on or, you know, the way he speaks, the way he's, acts on a football field, but his ability to make reads and make incredible decisions has not faulted him this season or really towards the end of last season either. And he's pushing to be a top 7 or 8 quarterback in the NFL, and he absolutely, in my mind, is there.
oh yeah. I think Baker Mayfield's a top five quarterback right now. Right now, I think Baker Mayfield is top. He has been exactly what you want out of a quarterback, excluding, them coming into the team and having that absurd arm strength or athleticism. And keep in mind, Baker Mayfield has fantastic athleticism. That play where he got out of the pocket and got that first down towards the end of the game is just that's when you look at when you talk to an NFL team and you talk about what do you want in your quarterback. Obviously, you want him to throw, blah blah blah. But that is a play that they will point at and be like, "That's what we want." He reads pressure, steps up in the pocket, gets out of the pocket, notices he doesn't have anyone to throw the ball to, gets a first down, slides, and then continues to build on that drive. And I think the Buccaneers are a sneaky contender in this NFC. I think they can compete with any team right now. The receiving
Mhm.
core is fantastic.
Absolutely.
Emeka Egbuka has been incredible. The fact that they were able to get him and add to that receiving core, Um, and keep in mind, I don't even think Godwin has played a game yet. If I'm
Yeah,
No Godwin, no
out for a couple more
McMillan.
weeks.
I mean, they're
yeah,
going to be the best
they're gonna
group in the
be
NFL when they're
yeah
healthy.
yeah. Um, so yeah, I think the Buccaneers will win this. And Serge, you know I have the sympathy for the Jets. I think they're much better, and I thought they showed a lot of promise in that first game. But I think Tampa Bay has every single piece to beat the Jets, and unfortunately, I mean not unfortunately, I don't really care, but the Buccaneers will win.
Yeah, it's the
Um,
Bucks for sure.
yeah, we'll move on. As to our next one, better game. This is a good game. This is again one of the better games of the weekend. Broncos Chargers. Obviously, Justin Herbert, when talking about quarterbacks who have risen in terms of their stock, Justin Herbert, one of those guys, starting off 2-0. Obviously, the highlighting performance was that win against the Chiefs, and they get another comfortable one against the Raiders, only scoring 20 points, which you'd hope they'd put up a little bit more. And then again, going against a Broncos team that a little bit shaky to start the season. And again, I will say I do think this is a tougher prediction, but to me, it's clear I think Chargers. And I think it will be much different, but you obviously lose to the Colts in that heartbreaker. But I just think they haven't you kind of obviously they exceeded expectations last year. So you expect them to either be where they were or even take that next step. And I think they've gone back a little bit. I think the Colts should have been, based on the Colts team, should have been a win and a more comfortable win. The Titans they only beat by 8. Um, and I think the Chargers is the hardest team they will have played since that. And I don't think it'll get much better. Again, could I see the Broncos winning 100%? It's a divisional matchup, and they have a good team. But I think Chargers continue their run and start off 3-0.
Yeah, I think the Chargers will win this one too. It's actually a tough one for me because I do think Denver's a really good team. Despite the seemingly slow start, we never expected this to be a team that's going to blow other teams out. That's not the Broncos' MO. Like they're going to put in great work defensively and hold the other team to less than 20 every week, but the offense isn't some incredible powerhouse that's going to score 40. It's going to be a team that wins games by 10 points, but looks convincing doing it. And I think the Broncos have looked good so far. Um, Not as good as they ended last season, but this is definitely a Broncos team that is still there. It's still in contention in this division, especially with the Chiefs 0-2 to start the season. I just think the Chargers have been a little bit better. They've got a more dynamic offense right now with Quentin Johnston and Lad McConkey, who is potentially out for this game, um,
Damn it.
and Omarion Hampton. I think the Broncos are really missing that piece that I think should be RJ Harvey moving forward in the run game. Just someone who can be super explosive and break tackles and use their speed. Um, and I think that RJ Harvey should get more touches moving forward. Uh, but yeah, I think this is definitely uh, two good teams squaring off. If it was in Denver, I might think differently. So I'm going to take the Chargers in this one without thinking too much about it.
Yeah, I'm torn about this one. I feel like I've been on record on the channel telling everyone how much I loathe the excessive Broncos hate this offseason. I feel like I've been vindicated for these first 2 weeks, but I am a little bit concerned about the Chargers defense, a very good defense that I really do like, without Khalil Mack, who will be out for a couple weeks with that dislocated elbow, and where really they're going to get pressure against a really good Denver offensive line. And then you look at that defense, which has struggled. They still have a very, very good secondary. And I think they're going to slow down Justin Herbert, that's been one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL so far. And I don't think they can really run the ball at the same level as we've seen with the Colts, where they were able to take advantage of a pretty weak Broncos linebacking room. So for that reason, I'm actually go kind of an upset. I'm gonna go Denver here, even though I do like the Chargers more. I'm gonna go Broncos.
Sir is just digging himself in a grave.
Really, really.
The Bron
I think it's an even, man. Yeah.
I was definitely with you on the Rams one, but this is I don't know. We'll move on. Seahawks Saints again. Not a very interesting game for me. I think the Saints, will just be who they are, which is not very good. And obviously the Seahawks, I will say, in a game that I thought would be much closer against Pittsburgh, handled that game very well. And I think they will do this here. So I think the Seahawks will win this game.
Yeah, I'm going to give this one to the Seahawks as well. The Saints are just really not that good. It's tough to pick the Saints right now
Ever.
because they just don't have much going for them. Offensively, defensively, they just haven't been great to start the season. People were expecting in the offseason. The Seahawks have looked okay, but not necessarily in the ways that I think we were expecting. I mean, it's a very dual backfield with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet. We saw in week one, Charbonnet got a couple more touches because he was more efficient. And then in week two, Kenneth Walker turned around and got a couple more touches because he was more efficient. And that's a really good way to have a running back duo. Jackson Smith and Jigba has been super impressive through 2 weeks. Um, Darnold
He's looked solid. I think he's
has
looked good.
been fine. I wouldn't tell you he's been impressive, but I also wouldn't tell you that he's going to be the reason they lose games. At least not right now. And defensively, they've looked pretty solid too. I will give them their props for that. They've looked like a really solid defense. So I'm going to go with the Seahawks here. Shouldn't be a close game. The Saints should not give them any problems. A lot of should nots there, but it should be the Seahawks.
Yeah, I mean, I feel a bit bad for Spencer Rattler because actually he's not looked too bad. He's looked okay, but he's going against three tough defenses to start the season. Like you said, I've really loved the Seattle defense with that duo of Leonard Williams and Byron Murphy on the inside, and you have Mike McDonald, who's just a genius on defense, and I think they're gonna keep that up against a pretty weak New Orleans offense. And you talked about JSN, another big week loading for him. I don't really know who's going to cover him. So yeah, give me Seattle.
All right. We move on to our next matchup, which is, as my games have gone, excuse me, our next matchup between the Cowboys and Chicago Bears. Look, an interesting one. Definitely an interesting one. I think Chicago, I think Caleb Williams has been better. I do think it was an unlucky loss against the Vikings in week one, but they did get 50 bombed last week. Which, yeah, there's not much defending that as I am trying to think of ways to do it. But I do think, especially that Vikings game, that defense, obviously we get that pick six. Yeah, no, never mind. They're just not that good. The Cowboys are gonna win.
I'll give credit where it's due. Romo Dunze has been really good to start the season. He's been really good, and I wasn't expecting that whatsoever. If his quarterback can throw the ball accurately, he might have 300 yards at this point. I don't know. But he can't, so he's not. Um, on the other side of the ball, the Cowboys, I think, are in a bit of a similar situation to the Bears, where they were kind of unlucky to lose in week one, but then pulled a win out of the hat in week two. So I guess not really that similar of a situation, but in a shootout, they let up a lot of points. We know the Cowboys defense isn't great, but we know the Cowboys offense is, and the Bears struggled so much against the Lions last week. So I'm also going to give this to the Cowboys. I just think good luck to the Bears trying to stop CeeDee Lamb and the Cowboys. And if I'm wrong, I'm wrong, but Jalen Johnson's hurt, correct?
Yeah, I think he might be out for the season.
Right.
So
Okay. So, and now they're doing it without their best defensive player. That spells disaster for me. I'm just gonna go with the Cowboys here in a probably a pretty entertaining game that maybe gets swept under the radar because it's in the 4 o'clock window, and you know it's the Cowboys and the Bears. You don't expect much, and then they go and it's a last second field goal to win it for the Cowboys, something along those lines.
yeah,
Or
Ryan
Caleb
pull
Williams interception at the death.
yeah, Ryan Poles' seat is starting to get dangerously hot. I mean, you saw he had four top 2 round picks. Colson Loveland, no catches. Luther Burden, I think no catches. And Ozzie Trapillo and Shamar Turner not even active for the game. So that just tells you where Chicago are at. And you talked about the Jalen Johnson injury. That defense might be one of the worst in the NFL without him now. And Dallas's offense, on the contrary, I think is one of the best offenses in the NFL. I think Dak has looked revitalized now with a better offensive line and George Pickens alongside CeeDee Lamb. So I think they'll put up maybe not 50, but I think 40. So yeah, Cowboys comfortably.
40. Ooh, getting 90 bombed in 2 games. That is bad.
That's what Caleb Williams does. He loses games and then gets Heisman's.
I think Caleb has been okay. I don't think he's been like.
I
I
think the
think he was
Vikings
better
game
last
was
week.
good.
I think he was better
Okay
last week.
is a fair word to use, I think, because he has thrown for, I mean, you look at the numbers, he's got a lot of yards right now. He's got three
Mhm.
touchdowns to one interception. But you look at some of his missed passes and you just wonder what's happening.
No, I
He
agree.
misses a
I agree.
lot of really easy throws. And some of his completions, the completion to Cole Kmet in week one, he overthrew like in the fourth quarter on the last drive when Cole Kmet had to make an outstanding one-handed catch. He's overthrowing balls that he shouldn't be overthrowing. He's missing passes he shouldn't be missing. He's missing reads he shouldn't be missing. He's lucky Romo Dunze has been open on almost every play. So I think that calling it his QB play so far this season okay is a really fair statement. I'm not going to go out and say he's been really terrible because he hasn't,
But
but
you
they're
want
0-2,
you
and
want more than
that's
okay from your first
you
overall
need
pick.
more than okay
You
from your
need
first
more,
overall
especially
pick.
when you invest so much in the trend, not in the trenches, so much at receiver. You get Ben
Yeah,
Johnson.
And
It
in the
has been, it
and
trenches.
has
And
been.
in the
and
trenches.
I do think that
They,
okay
oh
might
yeah,
be
they
a
did.
little
You're
bit
right. You're
generous
right.
because as good as their offense should be, they're 0-2.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Hmm.
We'll move on. Another good one of the Barron weekend. Both 2-0 teams, divisional matchup. Arizona Cardinals, San Francisco 49ers, Brock Purdy-less San Francisco 49ers. However, won last week, right? Without him. Yeah,
Yep.
against
Yep.
the Saints. So doesn't count. Um, Tough one. Again, Kyler Murray, a guy who just will not give up. Marvin Harrison having kind of a little bit of a better season, but again, keep in mind they've only won the past two games against the Saints and Panthers, one by 6 or one by 5, one by 7. Two games that you would like them to win more. So this is tough for me, but I'm gonna go Arizona because there's no Purdy, and I think that this Cardinals offense requires a high octane offense in return. To beat the Cardinals, obviously that sounds like a stupid statement, but the Cardinals offense is very good and their defense is all right, but the offense is not at the level that I would think it would be at that I guess people would think, you'd think you could score 30 against the Saints, you could score 30 against the Panthers and not that they were close, but um I think they win this one. And again, I'm going to go with the quarterback take because I think it's an important one in this game. So I think the Cardinals will take this one.
I'm not really sure where to go on this one because I think that now the Niners are saying that Purdy has a chance at playing this weekend.
Really?
I'm not sure how much of a chance that is, or if they're willing to risk that. Look, I really liked the Cardinals in week one, and I brushed aside the fact that it was, uh, or
Panthers.
I the brushed aside the fact that it was the Panthers,
Yeah.
right? And then they went out and, or that it was the Saints, sorry, in week one. And then they went out and almost let the Panthers beat them at home in a game that they dominated the entire game and then let up a touchdown in the last couple minutes and then gave up an onside kick. Uh, I wonder how they'll perform down the stretch against a strong defense, the strongest defense they'll have played all season by a lot. I think you could combine the Saints and Panthers defenses and they wouldn't be as good as the Niners defense. It'd be an interesting conversation at the very least.
Hmm.
So I think I'm going to give this one to the Niners, even without Brock Purdy. McCaffrey's looked good. Marvin Harrison did have a great week one, but then a very quiet week two. And I'm going to go Niners. I just think their defense is going to get the job done in this one. In Santa Clara, I'm, going to back the home crowd to make it difficult for Kyler Murray, help the defense out a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen what Robert Saleh only in 2 weeks has already done for this Niners defense. And I agree. I think this is probably one of the best defensive fronts in the NFL. I mean, we know what Nick Bosa is, but you've seen Micah Williams really step up and especially defending the run. We've seen Bryce Huff already, someone I loved on the Jets, has really kind of found his new home after struggling in Philadelphia. Had the game winning, I think sack or strip sack, but it was a game winning play regardless. So I really like that Niners front to make life difficult for Kyler Murray. And I'm just concerned about that Arizona secondary. It's really banked up. No Garrett Williams for 4 weeks. Will Johnson might miss the game as well. Max Melton will. So you're probably down. You might be down your starting three cornerbacks. And even against Mac Jones, the Niners have enough weapons to take advantage. So I'm going to go with San Francisco.
All right. Last two games, and Charlie, let's be real. The Giants play the Chiefs. And hey, Little bit better of a chance this year. Little bit. Little bit. I do think our defensive line will cause Mahomes problems. The Chiefs are 0-2. That just like registered in my mind. I forgot they lost against the Chargers. Wow. We have a chance. We do not have a chance.
But we
I'm sorry. My analysis has been one of the worst it's been in the 5 years of doing this channel. But I do think the Chiefs will win this game. But I will say I love the Giants defense. Maybe we see some dart in this game, but I doubt it because the Giants seem very hesitant, or at least not pressured to bring him in. But hey, I think the Giants could keep it close.
Did they bring him in for a couple of option plays? He
Yeah,
played
played
they-
three
they-
snaps. Yeah,
it was a
slipped
bit
on one of them.
weird.
But I
Yeah.
unfortunately, since we are tracking these picks, and I do want to win, I think the Chiefs will win this game.
Yeah, I'm not so sold on
I'm not either.
the Chiefs winning this. It's at MetLife, which isn't, some huge home advantage recently. Um, that being said, I could see this game going a lot similarly to the game last weekend with the Giants and the Cowboys. Just because the Cowboys had this dynamic offense that the Giants couldn't stop. So I'm not expecting the Giants to be able to stop Mahomes. But at the same time, the Chiefs defense hasn't impressed me. And if Russell Wilson, I mean, look, if Russell Wilson can play the way he did against the Cowboys every week, the Giants could be a 13-4 team. But he can't because that's not sustainable. It's not a realistic thing for Russ to put up 500 yards every week. Um, that being said, I do agree. I think it'll be a close game, and I honestly feel comfortable just taking a loss just for picking the Giants. Um, I don't know honestly what I want to do here. I feel like it would be stupid for me to pick the Giants. Because of course the Chiefs have won three of the last five Super Bowls. The Giants have won one playoff game in the last 10 years, and it just wouldn't be a smart pick. Um,
Char Me and Charlie trying to
Jesus
like I'm
Christ.
trying to
Trying
find a
to find
reason
a
to pick the
reason.
Giants so
Charlie,
bad.
as you talk about it more, you mourn. You're like, oh, maybe we could.
Maybe.
Look,
Yeah.
the one thing I'll give us, the Chiefs' pass defense has not looked good this season. It hasn't. Trent McDuffie hasn't looked as good as he was last year in the last couple of years.
Trent McDuffie's been amazing. Yeah, I mean, I guess I haven't seen him, but the routes that I do see, he's amazing.
But now he's facing arguably the best receiver in the NFL,
He's the best
Wandale
receiver.
Robinson. I don't.
That's
No,
what I will
I
say.
do
Malik
think the
Neighbors,
Giants' offense is going to be a little too versatile. Well, no, that's not true.
Yeah, we're just trying to.
The
Just trying to find a way.
I gotta
They'll
find
get there.
a
They'll get there.
reason to pick the Giants over the three-time Super Bowl champion Mahomes.
That are 0-2. That are
They're
0-2.
0. You know what? You said it best. They're 0-2. The Giants are at home.
Do it.
I feel like I'm sacrificing a game here, but I'm doing it for the greater good.
Because, all right, Charlie, how about this? And Serge, you can be in it. If the Giants win, we'll give you 2 wins. Oh wait,
Wait,
Or no, we
that'll
can- we
mess
can do that.
that'll mess everything up.
like
now.
not really.
No, but
though.
it could negate a loss.
Yeah.
Like, it's
Okay.
not.
Sure. Okay. If the Giants win, then it'll negate a loss next week.
That is more than enough to let me
Fine.
pick the
All
Giants.
right. All right.
So let's go Giants.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Chiefs.
All
I
right,
do
next
actually.
game- Nah,
Bad
okay.
pick.
Well, I mean, to be fair, I do think it's possible that the Giants win, mainly because I mean, I wouldn't say he's the best
We'll
receiver in
take
the
it.
NFL, but Malik Neighbors does lead the NFL in receiving yards right now,
Best
and I don't expect Trent McDuffie to travel with him because he's gonna Neighbors. Correct me if I'm wrong. He's usually not in the slot. He's not one of those receivers.
No, he's not.
Never.
He's
really.
on the
I mean, he
outside.
plays all
Wandale.
over the field, to be honest, but
But-
Wandale is predominantly.
But he
in the
plays
I
on
think-
each side. He's not a slot guy.
So
It's
against
Wandale.
a secondary that's pretty weak, other than Trent McDuffie, and is definitely susceptible to giving up big plays in the back end, I could see Malik Neighbors having another great game. But at the same time, this Chiefs offense, I think, is actually it's going to be better because Worthy is expected to be back. I think Jalen Royals also could be in for his debut, and I don't like what I've seen from Shane Bowen so far, so I don't trust him to slow down Mahomes. So I'm gonna go Chiefs.
Look, Xavier Worthy will torch our defense if he's healthy. That
I think he
just
is.
like
I
the
think
kind
he
of
is.
player who will just torch
I
our
will say,
defense.
shout out Drew Phillips, man.
Oh my God, he's
Great
great.
cornerback.
He's great.
Oh, he's good.
But
I like
when
Drew
is it
Phillips.
time to put Neighbors in the Jefferson and Chase conversation?
Not yet.
Because he's
Give it
right
a
there.
season. Give
Because
it a
he's
Because
right
season.
there.
Charlie, think about
You
it.
got to give it a
Chase
season.
had
You
that
got to give it.
insane rookie year. Justin Jefferson was insane. Neighbors needs to have like a
But I put him in
1400
that
10
conversation
touchdown.
because
Like,
the eye test is just
no, I
so
agree.
strong on
I
Neighbors. He's
agree.
one
I
of
agree.
those Jefferson and Chase like receivers who can do anything on a football field that you tell him to do. He's great at catching the ball. He's got great solid hands. He's fantastic high point and jump balls. He's great with the ball in his hands, and he's great running routes. There's nothing you really
No,
can't do
yeah.
as Malik
I
Neighbors.
100% agree that I think if you look talent wise, yes, he's there. But you know the politics of saying, "Oh, Neighbors is up there in that conversation." You know, people will just
Yeah,
burn down cities. But yes, I think Neighbors, and I think it's not a crazy thing to say. And I think if you watch the NFL and if you watch the Giants games, I think you're lying if you're not saying that Neighbors has some of the most talent of any receiver to come out since like Jefferson, since Chase. Like some receivers just have that factor in them. And like you said, there is not a hole in his game.
Mhm.
That catch, that bomb that the Russell Wilson pass interference saw the ball basically in the last millisecond before it reached his hands. And just some receivers have that it factor. And I think Neighbors is 100% one of those guys. The question always is with New York Giants receivers is do they have the person that can service them the ball enough? Is that going to be Russell Wilson? Maybe. He gave him a lot of service against the Cowboys. Could that be Jackson Dart? Most definitely. But that's what I think, we'll see if those guys can do it. And that I guess that's kind of the why he's probably that step below is he needs a consistent season. But
yeah.
someone picked the Giants, which is crazy. And yeah,
Blue
we'll move
runs
on.
deep, you know?
Last game probably will be the best game. Monday night, the second Monday night game. Oh no, excuse me, the first one. I thought there was two Monday night games.
No,
There's
there's only
one
one
this
this
week.
week. There's only one.
Lions, Ravens. Obviously, the Lions were just pissed. Oh no, the Lions.
Yeah, they were. They were.
Yeah,
You're
wait.
right.
The Lions lost to the Packers week 1,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, I
Correct.
thought. The Lions just let out all that anger. I mean, God, the poor Chicago Bears. I mean, that was just. Amon-Ra had what, 3 touchdowns?
Something like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
3 touchdowns, 100.
And
Put him
I
on
don't
then
know.
some in fantasy. I
obviously the
felt it.
Ravens, letting out some anger after losing to the Bills, putting up 41 against the Browns. Of course, we have both of those numbers in this video. But are you guys not up to date onto the 41?
Never seen it.
Little bit. It's like
Yeah,
it's the
it's
this
it's like the
41. I don't know. No. No.
I'm,
yeah, no,
I want
Charlie, it's like the new. I would love to meet the person who makes the numbers because it's like what, like I don't get it.
Yeah, like how did they become
Like how did it become?
like
Yeah.
yeah, I don't really know.
This is an extremely tough game, and since I am the one that's hosting this, I get to toss it to you guys and see who you pick, and that's what I'm gonna do.
I'm gonna go Ravens. The first thing that points me towards Ravens is that they're at home, and the Ravens at home are a formidable opponent. The second thing is that I feel like Lamar and the Ravens tend to just win big games in the regular season. That is the same is true for the Lions, absolutely. The Lions win a lot of games in the regular season, they win big games. But at the end of the day, I think when it comes down to two really great offensive teams, two really great teams, offensive and defensive, great coaching, uh, quarterback play often decides it. And not that Jared Goff isn't equally adept in certain areas of the field, but he's not Lamar. And he runs his offense just as well, but Lamar is so great, off script and on script too, and that's just Lamar, and he provides them with a different skill set than Goff gives the Lions, and I think it will be enough uh, for a Bear Ravens win.
Yeah, I'm gonna go Ravens as well. Mainly because I mean I love the Lions going into this offseason. I still really do like them, but they're not 100% healthy on that defensive side of the ball, and I really worry for that defensive depth against Lamar Jackson. How many guys outside of Hutch do you really think can rush the passer? That secondary not really been as good as advertised. Haven't really. Terry and Arnold, DJ Reed have looked not amazing, and I think Lamar could really have a field day against them. And I mean, I think the Lions offense will put up points, but I just don't think they're going to be able to dominate a Ravens defense that has one of the best secondaries in the NFL. So for that reason, give me Baltimore.
Because there's value here going Detroit.
There
But I
is.
agree. I do think the off the script ability of Lamar Jackson is a huge factor in this game. I've been a big fan of the Ravens defense as well, and obviously a banged up defense in Baltimore. I think that the Ravens win this one. I think it's gonna be a great game. I think this could be the best game of the week, but we shall see. That'll end it. Week 3. We'll be at week 4 next week. Let us know your picks. We will update you guys next week. Charlie with the first ever offer on the channel for our predictions. So we'll see how that pans out. And yeah, we'll be back for week 4, gentlemen. Signing off. Key McDermott, Serge Carly, Charlie Nidell, the Back Pocket Podcast, week 3. We'll see you for week 4. Enjoy your weekend, everybody, and we will see you next time.